Hey, this is David Cole Meyer, the problem solver. Today I am with Nikki Flynn with Elite Preparation Services. Thanks, Nikki, for joining me today.
Oh, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
I was about to say you're like this a mystery woman that does so many things in general that I don't even know. All I know is when people call me from the problem solver and they have a problem, I'm like, okay, just like before I was on the phone, I'm like, you need to call Z, you need to call Nikki. Like I'm basically always trying to basically help people with different problems. So I'm glad you're here today basically to help me understand a lot of things that you do. And I know from today, it's like this is like my therapeutic session that you're going to share all this stuff. So now in my mind, I'm going to brainwash myself of these different problems that people have that they need to call you. So I guess first tell us about how long, tell us a little bit about your background in regards to being involved in the legal community.
So I started in about 2018. I
Okay.
got involved. I started working at a law firm. I graduated from UNLV, got my paralegal certificate, and started working for one of the top 5 estate planning law firms here in Las Vegas. Got to really do hands-on building of the company, getting my feet wet with all estate planning, the purposes, self-taught, learning the ins and outs of how important it truly is. At some point, we kind of grew apart, and I was really tasked with still wanting to help people. And so I branched out on my own, and with the guidance of a friend telling me that there is something in Las Vegas called a document preparer, which is governed by the Secretary of State. They oversee all of us, make sure that we're abiding by the rules, we're upholding to all of the state laws and regulations against us, basically letting us know what we can and cannot do. So our purview is we're allowed to do almost the same thing as an actual law firm can, but we can't give legal advice and we can't represent them in court. But we can draft documents for them. We can explain what a document is for and the purpose of them. And we're at so much cheaper, less of a cost of what an actual lawyer would be. And you're dealing with us hands-on. It's not you call the firm, you get transferred to every other person in the office. And let's be honest, behind every good lawyer is the paralegal that does all the work anyways. So why not be the front face of being able to handle everything hands-on with my clients? So that is where I started. And from there, I've just continued to add more tools to my tool belt.
You know, it's very interesting, the whole document preparation, because I feel there's 2 people that I didn't really know about. It was the document preparation and even like an adjuster. Because actually someone called me once, someone that I basically, I think I actually referred to you, and they're like, oh, I spoke to this guy who's an adjuster. I'm like, I don't know what it is. It's a scam. Like a lot of people are just uneducated about these things. So the document preparation, but to get licensed for document preparation, it's different. You went to paralegal school, you have a certificate, you worked in a law firm, but technically to get the license for document preparation, there's no major test, right?
No. But you do have to do the background check. So you have to be fingerprinted. They do a background check on you, and they have to make sure that you're not convicted of any crimes. Okay. You have no felonies, nothing like that in your background. And then you have to submit documents to the Secretary of State. They are very strict with the wording, how your contracts are drafted, what your documents even look like, and they regulate us. So at any given point, they'll spot check if you have a Facebook, if you have a website, anything. They go on there and scrub all of your social medias to make sure that you're not doing something that you're not supposed to. There are a lot of people out there who are claiming to do certain things for people, saying, oh, well, we'll draft your estate plan, we'll do a trust for you, but they're not licensed. So you're getting fill-in-the-blank documents that are just downloaded off of a website, not getting the actual real documents that you would from an actual firm. Same thing going through a document preparer. So heavily regulated and very, very important because it's a second option for people who don't want to deal with lawyers.
Mm-hmm. So even though you get licensed, they check your background and the document preparation. I mean, I think it's different for you because you went to paralegal school and you worked in a major firm. But what about, I mean, technically, even myself, when I became educated about document preparation, I was like, oh, maybe I should do that, right? But you have to have some type of skill set in some regards to really do it properly. But a lot of people are not. So I'm assuming that you really have to do your due diligence when you use someone to do does document preparation, right?
Yep.
So how do you know you're going to the right place? There's a lot of places that do document preparation that say that they do it. How do I know I'm at the right place?
So you want to look at their background. So they should have a contract that lists their license number, their bond information, and then do your search on them. Make sure that they're actually bonded and licensed properly. They have an actual business license, that they're operating like they're supposed to. And then the most important, look at the work. That is how you're really going to be able to tell
How do you look at the work? I mean, this is basically a lot of it's the document work in general. Like, how do you find their work?
So when they're doing documents for you, it's going to be fill in the blank. They're just going to ask you simple, basic information. They're not tailoring it to your actual specific needs. It's just literally name here, fill in the blank, date here, that kind of information. Not sitting down, reviewing the documents and going over everything for you. And you'll know when you're talking to somebody, they might claim, oh, well, I've done this for X amount of years. Yeah, but are you licensed? Do you have a background history? Have you properly drafted things before? So there's a lot of things that you can do to double check, but definitely doing your due diligence on making sure that the license is up to date with the Secretary of State, checking to see if there's any filed complaints against the person themselves, make sure their bond is up to date, and they have a proper business license.
There's a lot of stuff that goes behind it, but technically still there's no like test that they're taking.
Nope.
So you really just, a lot of it is that you're helping them fill in the blank, right?
Well, with some documents, yes. Because as a document preparer, you can help them with filing divorce papers, doing self-representation for court, doing complaints and motions. You can fill in any legal document for them, file the documents for them as well. But if you're looking for a specific person, you want to find that person who actually knows what they're doing and sit down with them. Have a talk with them. Before you go into just jumping into engaging with them, look at their work. Ask them questions. Ask if you can see a rough draft of what they do. Or ask them, how do I know that this is what you're giving me? Well, they should be able to back it up.
So when we talked about trust the other day, and you said that, oh, maybe this person didn't do the trust differently, what would make you doing the trust differently compared to another document preparer? I got a little nervous actually from talking about it in general because I'm like, how do I really know, right? Because no one's really been through testing to be a document preparer. It's really their training and experience from the past. Even the state, they're just making sure that you're not a felon doing paperwork, which I think is kind of interesting because I think a lot of people just, they see something on the wall and they see a license and they think, okay, they're qualified to do it. But technically I could do a background check and be a document preparer tomorrow. So checking to see their experience and answer those questions. But I think a lot of people don't probably ask those questions, right? Or don't even ask, or they feel intimidated.
Or they don't even know.
It's an unusual conversation, don't even know to ask. Because I personally, in the beginning, when I would see a document preparation, where it says the state, I'm thinking, okay, they went through some testing. They're good to go. So what makes your trust that the paperwork that you do different compared to other document preparers?
Well, so what stands out about my documents is that I'm not only extremely thorough, but the clients will know that my documents are specified to their exact needs because we customize them. So when I'm sitting down with them, it's not just, oh, who are you naming and what do you want done? It's, okay, what happens if it's a married couple at the first of you to pass? How are the documents drafted to protect the surviving spouse? Are we worried about Medicaid possibly having to come in? It's all about how the trust is designed. It's not a cookie cutter. What works for you is not going to work for me. So when you are designing a plan, you have to know what the family background is, what their goal is going to be long term. Because if you're planning for a married couple, they're going to want to protect their spouse. They're going to want to protect their children. How are they passing assets down? Are they going to be passing them down in a trust for their beneficiaries? These are all questions that you need to be aware of, that if you're just going to somebody who's filling in the blanks, you can't do that. It's just cookie cutter. Put in the name, put in the address, put in the percentage. Okay, you're done. You're on your way. You need to know how to properly draft the documents and working with the software to know what elections you're choosing and what options you're giving your client. So that's how you can set yourself apart from somebody who's just filling in the blanks, is by knowing how detailed and how down to the letter you can get with your documents when you're sitting down with me.
Okay. Let's discuss when someone buys a home, what is the main thing that you should be doing? Like the average person owns one home. So if I buy a home tomorrow, should, I guess what's standard these days where the people come to you and say, hey, I want to place it in an LLC, or they want to basically place it in a trust?
So it depends on what their options are, like what they're wanting to do. So are they looking to just protect their home and they're living in it? It's their actual residence. Or are they looking to rent it out and they want to put it in an LLC for protection? So those are two different scenarios. So that's the first thing, is to sit down with somebody and figure out, what is your long-term goal? What are you hoping to project from this outcome. So if they're saying, okay, well, I'm going to live in it for a couple of months, but then we're going to rent it out. I'm waiting for my other house to be ready. Okay, well, then let's talk about putting it into an LLC, limited liability corporation. You're doing that because you're protecting yourself and your personal assets from being sued by a renter who you are going to rent out that property to. So that's the difference between just putting in a trust, because I want to make sure that my house does not go through probate if I pass away, and it's going to be left for my spouse or for my children.
So most people will basically get an LLC and then they'll get a trust, and the LLC goes inside the trust, correct?
Yes. And that is that's the big takeaway that a lot of people don't understand is when they are doing the LLCs, they're like, okay, I'm just going to do the LLC. That's great. And they miss the big elephant in the room, which is if something were to happen to you tomorrow and you set up that LLC, what happens to your LLC? If you don't have a proper estate plan and you don't fund that business to your LLC and you're incapacitated in the hospital, nobody's going to be able to take care of that LLC for you. But if you set it up properly with an estate plan, your trust can control your LLC for you. So that way it doesn't go to the wayside and somebody else, it goes into default and then somebody else can take over that LLC, or the family's going to have to go through probate because there's no protection. If it's properly layered with an estate plan, you don't have anything to worry about because the trust protects everything. So when everything is properly drafted the way it's supposed to, the LLC is controlled by the trust, and you elect who controls that trust if you are incapacitated.
You mentioned something before where someone would just take over the LLC. You're saying that if someone passed away, that someone could just take over an LLC. How does that happen?
They can't, because they have to have legal entity to be able to do that. You can't just say, oh, well, this person died, so I'm going to take that over. Not if there's assets sitting into it.
Okay.
Now we're talking about lawyers. We're talking about probate. And what people don't understand is when you're going through probate, you are footing the bill. The family has to foot the bill, not only for the lawyers, not only for the appraisers, the court costs, the collectors that are going to come knocking wanting their full due of the amount that is owed on credit card bills, medical bills. But now you have to pay to keep the house up. Otherwise, you're going to have squatters that end up in there. Or if you're living in there, then if the mortgage is being paid because they know that person passed away, there's just so many things that fall to the wayside that people don't understand how important it is. And the number one thing is they always think they have time. And just turn on the news for 5 minutes. There's no such thing as time. Look at how dangerous the roadways are. Nobody has that crystal ball that says in 1 month, this is going to happen. So if you're not fully prepared for the what ifs, then there's going to be problems. And when there's problems, there's huge costs that go to it. And courts, they're not in a hurry. They're not trying to move at the speed of light to help a family. They don't care. You're on their docket. You're on their time schedule. So it's their timeline, their fees, and then the attorneys that you have to pay for to get through the whole system itself.
Now, what about Homestead? That's another thing that should be done as well for Homestead?
Yeah, the Homestead.
Is that done before the LLC, technically?
Well, the
Homestead's
Homestead
an
is
LLC?
only for your residence.
For your personal residence?
Yes.
So anyone that's buying a home, Homestead is just a simple form that they submit to the county. Is that what it is? And anyone can do that. There's no fee? Is there a fee for it? $10 fee?
No, I think it's just the recording cost, unless I don't think it's gone up for this year. So it should be $48.
So $48 is the Homestead fee.
Yep.
And it's just one simple form.
Yep.
And that protects, do you know what the...
So basically it's, I believe the value is, it was up to $620,000. I believe it's around that number. I haven't looked in the past year and a half, but basically what it means is that if somebody were to try to attach a lien to your house, HOAs do that all the time. If you have any trash, your recycles, anything that they feel like they want to attach a lien to your property, they will do that. With the Homestead, you're protecting that from happening. Now, that's not a fail-safe. You can't go not paying your taxes and thinking that you're protected because you did a homestead. Doesn't work that way. You can't untouch the federal government. So if it's a Medicaid lien because they've paid for Medicaid and they're going to come slap a lien on the property to recoup the money when somebody passes, Homestead does not protect against that. And neither does they could do child support and IRS. So those are the three main takeaways that you can't, the Homestead will not protect you from, but everything else it will.
She's saying child support is one of them.
Yep.
And what's the other two?
IRS. And Medicaid.
And Medicaid. So basically, even though if you homestead the property, basically these are the three people could still come get their money
It's
from
the federal
property,
government.
federal government. And then, so Homestead's key, $48 approximately, right? And then that's if you're personal property. And then the LLC, whether it's your personal property or whether it's an investment, right?
Yes, if you're
Just to avoid liability, God forbid someone slips and falls, right?
well, I mean that's what you have homeowners insurance for. So if it's going to be your personal residence, there's no point in putting in an LLC. That's wasting money and tax
So
filings.
just insurance in the homestead for a regular personal
Yes.
home, for a primary home ownership, okay? And then if it's investment properties, the LLC and then the trust.
Yes.
And you can put multiple LLCs into that trust.
Oh yes.
Okay.
Unlimited.
What's the biggest thing that you feel that people are not doing these days in general? You meet a lot of people in general. A lot of people have different problems. I refer people that have problems. Just got a phone call right now. They're a problem person. But this one's DMV. But normally, what are the things that people should be doing since you see it all the time? Besides, right, LLC, trust, and homestead. What are we missing?
So they're always trying to cut corners. They want to save money, and they have to understand if they want to do things right, do it right the first time. Yes, it's going to cost a little bit more. It's great to shop around, but you can't try to cut corners because it's going to end up on hurting you in the long run. So they say, oh, I just want the LLC. Well, do you know when you create an LLC, you need an operating agreement? That is how you're able to open up a bank account. That operating agreement tells whoever you are going to be showing the operating agreement to open a bank account, how the business functions. That operating agreement tells them how your business is ran, who's in charge, and the percentage of what is owned in the LLC itself. The trust itself is what is going to control if in the event you become incapacitated or you pass away. So those things together are what a lot of people forget that kind of go hand in hand. And they think, oh, I'll just do this one because they're trying to piecemeal or cookie cutter things because they just want that quick fix. They just want to start that business and get things running, and it doesn't work that way. So that's the downfall. And having proper agreements in place, like we were talking about your friend. When you are trying to create an LLC and now you want different people to have different percentages and different things going on, some ownership, but not really be part owner. When you're doing stuff like that, you need contracts. Otherwise, you're going to have a situation like we talked about before where somebody claims to have a percentage of a business, but there's no actual paperwork. You always need proper legal documentation to make sure that things are done right. You have to spell everything out so you protect yourself so nobody else comes back and tries to claim things were said or things were done. Having contracts and agreements in place when you properly set up your LLC is key.
Okay. When people say estate planning, what exactly falls under estate planning specifically? I think even myself, I get confused. I met with someone today that was doing like life insurance, and they say, I want to hook up with different estate planning attorneys. So estate planning specifically, how would you describe that? What does that fall under?
So estate planning is basically all of your legal documentation that will appoint everybody that needs to be appointed in the event something happens to you. So that's going to be a trust, a will, a power of attorney, a healthcare directive, even down to what we call the final disposition. So that is who can legally handle what your final wishes are. There's a lot of people who are estranged from their family members. Well, when you pass away, if you don't have proper documentation and you want your neighbor to handle your final wishes, they're not going to let that person do it if they're not legally appointed. They're going to ask for a family member who you might not want involved in your final wishes to be appointed to take over decisions. So it's all about having all of the proper legal documents. In the event something happens to you, that's going to be the person that's going to step forward and take care of you, speak on your behalf, run your business for you, pay your bills, transfer assets if it's needed. And then, God forbid, somebody passes, it's going to be who's going to handle all of your wishes and how your estate is going to be delegated.
Okay, and then when should someone basically start thinking about this stuff? Because I know that you speak to different people with different age groups.
Yes.
If someone says, when do I have to worry about this stuff? When should I be doing it?
Basically, the moment you turn 18.
Okay.
So it's such a wide range. So you think about when you're 18, you're a legal adult. So, of course, when we're 18 years old, we still go to mom and dad. We want mom and dad to take care of everything. You fall, break your knee. You fall and break your ankle. Mom and dad can't call to make those doctor appointments because you're a legal adult. You're 18. Mom and dad don't have that power anymore. So having those documents in place allows mom and dad to still be able to make decisions for you and help out, even though you are a legal adult.
What kind of documents are you talking about? Like
just a power of attorney and a healthcare directive.
healthcare directive, and a limited power of attorney. Am I saying limited or just power of attorney?
Just durable power of attorney.
Durable power of attorney. Okay.
Limited
What about
is
like
just
I always say like
scope.
healthcare proxy,
So that's a healthcare directive.
healthcare directive, same,
Yep.
same thing, right? Healthcare directive. Okay. And then I'm sure you deal with a lot of different business owners in general. What about business owners? What do they overlook sometimes that when you speak to different people?
Well, the one thing they overlook is having the proper contracts and agreements in place, and then having an exit plan. Wonder if you want to always look at that scenario. What happens to me if I were to walk outside and I don't make it home? What happens to the business? A lot of times people don't have those fail-safe in place. What happens if you don't make it home? Does your business just crumble? Do you have the proper people in place? Do the people who you think are going to be in place even know how to run the business? Is there a business succession plan in place? Who is your insurance carrier? When are bills due? How are bills paid? Like, these are all things that need to be properly drafted in order for your key person to be able to run the business if something happens to you.
What documents do you use for that?
So I do a business succession plan.
A business succession plan, okay.
And that basically just walks through, okay,
What
this
happens if something happens, right?
Yep. Who's
Okay.
in charge? Who is your insurance carrier? When are bills paid? How is the business to be ran? If it needed to be sold, do you have a key person that you want it sold to? Do you have an idea of how much you want it sold for? Everybody has different needs. Like a real estate agent, they can't sell their business because they are their business. If something happens to them, their business no longer exists. But if they were an insurance agent, we have a book of business. So our book of business is worth a lot of money because it's a residual income on a yearly basis. So if I were to pass, then my husband would be able to say, okay, I've got Nikki's book of business, so this is who she wants me to sell it to. Or if I don't have anybody, he could take it to whoever he chose to be able to sell my book of business and say, this is what her income is, this is what the residual money is, and then take it from there. So having key things in place and outlined agreements, it basically is like your how to run business properly document.
So I know that a lot of people these days, I feel like I'm meeting with a lot of different life insurance people in general. How does insurance and estate planning work together?
So the key thing is having a buy-sell agreement. So if you go into business with somebody, or even if you're a sole entrepreneur, if something were to happen to you, you want your family to get paid. So if you're going to sell your business, who you're going to sell it to, if the life insurance that you take out, is that going to cover what you need to be able to continue to run the business? Is there a key person that you want it sold to? If you're in a business together with a partner, does that partner have a life insurance policy to be able to buy each other out if one of you were to pass? You want the family to be actually taken care of, whatever that amount is, and then the sole survivor would be able to continue to run the business and take things over. So there's a lot of different things that go into play when we're talking about business owners and life insurance policies.
Okay, so what about contracts and agreements we talked about before, but why are they so important? You mentioned about with business people, and I guess if something happens to you as well, but why is it so important from your experience of dealing with other people? You have an unusual story in regards to that?
Well, it's the most important thing is when we're talking about business owners is CYA. So cover your butt cheeks. So you basically want to be able to make sure that everything is outlined, because anytime that there is a disagreement or somebody does not agree with something, they're going to want to come back at you and have repercussions. And in this day and age, everybody wants to hire an attorney and sue people. So having proper agreements and contracts in place prevent that from happening. That's unnecessary nonsense that you're setting yourself up for, that you can completely prevent and protect yourself from by having things completely outlined, detailed to the letter, so nobody can come back and try to sue you or take your business from you.
Okay. What should families be doing? I know, like with my family, we're trying to be prepared. We got a lot of stuff going on. What should families do with kids as well? If you have young kids.
Yeah, that doing an estate plan is going to be key for them, because you always want to think, you want to make sure the people that you want to raise your kids are the ones that are actually legally nominated to do so. And you want to make sure that the trust is set up to allow for any life insurance policies that you have or any business money that you have coming in is funneled through the trust. So that way the people that you name as guardians to take care of the kids are not the ones that are footing the bill to raise them until their legal stated age. So those are key things for families with making sure they have a properly drafted estate plan and having the nomination of the guardianship forms in there. So that way, if in the event something happens, they've got everything taken care of and they're bypassing the court process.
You know, these days it's kind of weird with AI technology going on with social media. These days you keep seeing like these different celebrities or actors where they show like an actor basically in a film and they'll say he was 55 years of age and he was being filmed in, let's say, Back to the Future. And then they show like today, 2026, like he's passed away. They'll show him today, but if he's passed away, he has like wings and he sits next to his old self from the movie. And it's kind of sad because it's depressing because you're seeing a lot of people that are young people that basically pass away. Even the other day, that actor passed away. I think he was like 47. I'm 49, turning 50. But it makes me a little bit nervous. And these days, you know, you just never know what's going to happen in the future. My parents are 80 years, you know, about 80, 81. Every day I basically tell them I love them. Thanks for helping me, right? I feel like one day you never know. They're in good health, but you just don't know. And yeah, I see them getting a little bit older in general, you know, which is, and I'm getting older as well. But, you know, it's you just don't know what the next day is going to bring. It's kind of sad to think about it, but mortality, I guess, in general. And then, like I said, you see things on social media. And then there's a thing now where, you know, there's some things that joke around. They show like if you're born in 1976, that the age 50 is catching up to you, like basically you're turning 50. So that's a little bit of comical, but then basically showing like, okay, the average man lives till the age of 73. So you have 23 more years left, or you have, you know, 200 more times you can see the moon. But it's that kind of depressing stuff in general, you know? But the truth is you just never really know. I try to slow down my time even with the kids and stuff like that, you know, but you just don't know. And I think you need to be prepared. We always think that we have enough time, but basically getting documentation set up properly for that day, you just don't know. Just like when you pay for insurance, you're paying for the what if of when that car accident may take place. Today I had two seniors in my office that, you know, had some problems where they're living. They asked me as the problem solver to help out. And, you know, I don't give specific legal advice, but a lot of it's kind of like police background where, what do I suggest doing? I'm living at this place and stuff like that. What about seniors? What do you feel in regards to seniors? What do you feel seniors need to do in regards to preparing things, or what's your recommendations?
So seniors are my soft spot. Those are my primary focus, only because they are planning for it because they know the inevitable is going to happen. So they're a little bit more prepared mindset-wise than your average 30, 40-year-old couple. So when you're dealing with seniors, they have so much going on that sometimes they are in this mode of not wanting to just give everything to their kids because they gave birth to them. Sometimes they're wanting to do things a specific way, or their kids are not going to honor their wishes. So having the documents in place really do help them and protect them, so that way they can make sure their wishes are going to be honored. But it also goes hand in hand with the type of planning that you do. So depending on how they set up for their retirement is going to make sure of how they protect their significant other when they pass. Because if they don't have a lot of money, the trust needs to be set up and structured a certain way to protect their surviving spouse. So if they need to qualify for Medicaid, then they can, and they don't have to spend down all of their assets. So being able to know what their family scenario is and what really is their ultimate end goal is how you can structure the proper estate plan for them to make sure that they're protected all the way through until their last day.
Why do you think, I mean, I know in my situation, why do you think most people avoid all this estate planning and stuff like that? I mean, I feel like even when I talk about it with you, like I actually feel like after all these years, I feel like I'm educated more, but I think it gets overwhelming in general. And I think also that, you know, by using attorneys, they charge a lot of money. It's great to have an alternative way of handling this stuff by having someone like yourself and your company basically doing it. But I think it's very stressful. What's your take on that? What do you feel most people just kind of procrastinate, or?
It's procrastination, of course, but it's also they don't want to think about that. They don't want to put the thought into, oh my God, if I'm not alive, what's going to happen? Who's going to raise my kids? How is life going to go on? How are things going to be passed down? So that's it for most people. They basically just feel like, okay, well, if I just ignore the elephant in the room, then I don't have to worry about it. That's the biggest mistake that they can do, because you don't have that crystal ball. None of us do. We don't know when it's going to be our time. So the more that we keep procrastinating, the more of a problem it's going to be, because when that emergency happens, I can't always help. So it's being prepared. And yes, it can be overwhelming and it's very tedious at first. I sit down with my clients and I walk them through everything, handhold them all the way from start to finish. It does seem like it's a lot, but that's because it's a binder full of, I call it your life playbook. A coach does not go into a game without a playbook. You don't go through life without a playbook. And I help you put that playbook together all the way through. Every last I is dotted and T is crossed, so we can make sure that everything is outlined exactly how you are wanting. And then every client that I have ever had has always told me, I'm so happy I got this done. It seems like a lot at first, but when you're done, you're done. We revisit it on a yearly basis just to touch base, say hi, make sure there's no serious problems. If there are serious problems, they give me a call, they reach out, we make changes. But for the most part, you've designated all of the important stuff. So now you have that peace of mind knowing, oh, it's not, oh, okay, I bought life insurance. If anything happens, that's taken care of. There's so many other things that need to be addressed that if they're not addressed in an estate plan, that life insurance is only going to go so far.
Interesting. If someone basically is listening, feels that they need this, or what should they do? How do they contact you in general? Because I think the biggest thing is really having a relationship with you and basically, sitting down to seeing what they specifically need. Even though it's kind of standard, right? LLC trust. I mean, basically depending upon where you are, right? There's certain things that you need, whether it's a business contract or LLC or trust and things in general, or the homestead. They need to contact you. What's your information?
So I could be reached at 702-970-9686 or Nikki at eliteprepservices.com. And the first step is just give me a call. Let's set up a free consultation, and let's go over what your problems are, what your needs are, and we make it a full-on conversation so you have all of your questions answered right then and there. And then you set the tone. You make the game plan. You make the decisions, but have all the information first.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you coming on the Problem Solver to basically educate people that are listening in general. What's one last piece of advice that you would want everyone to hear in general with your experience of doing this for how many years now?
I'm going on 6.
Okay. So give me some piece of advice, even though we'll have people contact you in general. Like I said, I normally refer people to you as well as a great source to basically get some help when, times are weird. You just don't know who to contact. Some advice?
Yes.
Besides take action.
Yeah.
And don't procrastinate.
Yeah, those are the key takeaways. But I would just say the most important thing is you want to protect what you've worked really hard for. You want to protect your family and you want to protect your assets. So why not get those things in place? Why not set the documentations in place now so you don't have to worry about it later?
I feel like this was like a therapeutic session for me, so I appreciate you. I appreciate you coming on the Problem Solver to educate myself. Like I said, it's great to kind of hear it out in general because I think it gets advanced, and a lot of times you get overwhelmed and basically a little bit stressed in regards to thinking about these things. And then it's easy just to procrastinate, and then the cost things that go in. And I know that you're reasonable and that you work with people as well. So again, I appreciate you coming on the Problem Solver. And again, if anybody needs some help, Lead Preparation Services, Nikki Flynn's here. And as with the Problem Solver, if you want to basically reach me, 702-999-1111. That's 702-999-1111. I'll connect you with Nikki. So again, Nikki, I appreciate you coming on the Problem Solver and sharing the wealth of knowledge. And hopefully with this information, people will take some action, even myself included. Stop the procrastination, take some action, and then work through it to make sure that you're protected, because you just don't know what's going to happen the next day, and you want to protect your family and your assets, especially for working so hard for what you accomplish. So again, Nikki, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, we'll see you next time on The Problem Solver. So again, appreciate your time. Again, theproblemsolver.vegas, 702-999-1111. Thank you so much.
Thanks.